Hello, and welcome to DFS Deep Dive. My name is Brian Craighead, and I'll be one of your three hosts. Needless to say, we'll be covering NFL daily fantasy content, and DraftKings will be our platform. We're a recurring weekly Friday night pod and proud to be part of the Cut Podcast Network. You can find all of our written content at thecutffb.com and on Twitter at thecutffb. As for me, my content here, as well as the other four websites that I work for, can be found on Twitter at Vandygrad92. At this point in time, I would like to welcome my co-host, Luke and Mav. If y'all would please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Mav, aka Protagonist TV. I'm just a video game streamer. I play MLB, NBA, Madden, and some shooters here and there. But when it comes to football, I'm pretty much here every Friday with these guys, talking DFS. You will also find me heavily on Twitter talking about the Patriots because I'm a fan of the Patriots, and just talking about fantasy football and giving my thoughts and opinions as well.
My name is Lucas Deepow. You can find me at Lucas Deepow on Twitter. I've wrote a couple articles for this network in the summertime and mainly sticking to the podcasting we're doing here for DFS and spread picks towards the end. You can find me on Twitter if you have any football or hockey questions. Big Steelers and Blue Jackets fan.
All right.
As I mentioned leading in, obviously we're going to be discussing NFL daily fantasy sports content. Our main platform is going to be DraftKings. And there's a few things you should know about DraftKings. First of all, in regards to the type of tournaments and pools we're going to be entering, I typically enter the cash plays. Basically, those are your multipliers, your triple plays. There's a variety of other type of plays that I like to enter, but we're not really here primarily for the bigger tournaments, the 11,000 type tournaments. I concentrate on those cash plays and also smaller tournaments like 200-player tournaments. I feel like it provides, obviously it's great to hit that big one, but in the same time, kind of like the horse track, you have to have a pretty big pool of money to take one of those down. So I stay away from pick sixes and try to do the exactas and win placing shows bets for me. I'm just more of a consistent daily player. So that's kind of what I look at. One thing to keep in mind, there's a $50,000 salary cap on DraftKings. You have to fill 9 positions. You got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense. And there's multiple ways to get around that 50,000. But the most important thing, regardless of how you build your lineup, just keep in mind the 9 positions and the maximum salary cap. The other thing we need to know is the main slate. That's the one we're going to focus on. Those are all your 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Sunday games. So for this week, obviously last night we had Washington and the Giants play. Sunday night we've got Kansas City and the Ravens playing. And on Monday night, we've got the Packers and the Lions. None of those players are going to be available. Needless to say, on your Sunday night and Monday night games, between Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Mahomes, Kelsey, Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, you got a ton of really good players. So kind of provided a unique challenge here this week. But we'll definitely share our information, share what we've got. And that's kind of where we're headed with this. And then before Mav and Luke get into their picks for the week, I wanted to go over a few games that were kind of important this week, kind of games to watch. There's actually several games. It's kind of an unusual slate because the 1 p.m. games this Sunday, there really weren't very many high over-unders available. But there are 2 teams in that early window to look at. The Browns have an implied total of 30. The Steelers are sitting at 26 and a half. And in regards to late games, you got 4 games that have an over-under of over 51. You got the Vikings playing at the Cardinals, the Falcons playing at the Bucks, the Titans playing at the Seahawks, and last but not least, the Cowboys playing at the Chargers. So those are some games to kind of concentrate on. I've talked to our fellows here, and a lot of our picks come from those games. So at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to Mav and Luke so they can give their lineup discussions.
All right. So after a lot of thought about some players that I was going to go around this week, I went a little cheap with my first 3 options, the quarterback and the running back, because you do have fantastic value at a very cheap option. So for quarterback, I'm a little biased this week. It's the Patriots against a rookie quarterback. I have faith in what's going to happen this week. I got Mac Jones as my quarterback. I think he's going to fantasy points per game, 15. I think he can, get you a little 20 points. He might throw for 300 yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to throw a pick. I don't think so. That's obviously not something you can predict. So that's why I went for quarterback. Running back, hopefully he doesn't fumble this week.
Hey, Mav.
Yes.
Not to interrupt, but what's your price tag there on Jones?
Oh, not sharing. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you share the screen.
Yeah, here we go. There we go. So Mac Jones is 5,400, right? Usually the quarterbacks that a lot of people target, you're looking at like a Jalen Hurts with 65, Herbert 67, and then they go up to Kyler Murray, who's my QB1 at 8,200. So you go for somebody that high of a price tag, you're gonna have to go very cheaper elsewhere. But for running back at 5,400 as well, I went Damian Harris. I can see him getting he didn't score a touchdown last week, so I can see him getting his first touchdown this week against the Jets. I'm not sure how good that defense is going to be. And he rushed for about 100 yards last week. I can see him doing that again this week. For my second running back, another cheap value, I went Chase Edmonds. They're going up against the Vikings. They got some players hurt. Anthony Barr, Everson Griffin, and I think there's somebody else that's hurt on that defense. So for 4,900 for Chase Edmonds, who got you 14 points last week, he might give you more this week. He had 4 targets, so they do throw it to him out of the backfield as well. So all he needs out of all these targets is a touchdown, and he's going to give you 20 points. Wide receiver, I went with my wide receiver 1. You will probably see him on all of my teams all season, DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, I went with the top dollar here at receiver because I went cheaper everywhere else so far. For receiver, my second receiver, I went. They might score 40 points in this game. I went Antonio Brown. Week 1, he gave you 26 points. He could easily do that again this week on Sunday because they're probably going to score 40 points in that game. Other receiver, Antonio Brown is 6,000, by the way. My third receiver, I went Devontae Smith at 5,400. He played very well last week. That connection's only going to get better. We saw what Goff did at the end of the game. 2-minute drill. Jalen Hurts can do that just as better than Jared Goff. At tight end, everybody thought this connection was dead. This connection was never dead. I went with the tight end 8 of last season, who is now currently, I think, tight end 1.
He was the top scoring tight end last week.
Picked up Gronk at 4,700. That is a steal because you got Waller at 76, Kittle at 64, and then you have Gronk just sitting here at 4,700. Pick up Gronk while he's cheap. Then I was looking at defense before I looked at my flex. Especially with what they did last week. How can you not give them a shot this week? New Orleans Saints against Sam Darnold. I mean, maybe we can pump the brakes a little bit with how well he did last week against his old team, the Jets. See how he does against, a better defense. And it's a divisional game. Usually those divisional games are a little bit rough. So let's see. I picked the Saints at 3,100.
The same defense that held Aaron Rodgers to 3 points.
Yes. And made Aaron Rodgers probably one of the worst fantasy quarterbacks in the league right now. And now I got 7,100 to play with, which means that you can go to Adam Thielen, who's a very great pick. He got you 30 points last week, right? He's a touchdown machine. He actually scored 2 last week. But where did I go? I don't even see him. I'm blind. Okay. But I went with Keenan Allen here, 7,000. And they're going up against the Dallas defense. Dallas defense can easily give up 30 to 40 points to anybody. And it's Keenan Allen, who's a top 10 receiver in the league. So that's why I went with my flex pick.
Do you have a pivot playing your own lineup before we maybe suggest a couple?
So a lot of people won't pick Damian Harris because he's not heavy in reception, so he's not going to get you a lot of points, via PPR. So what you can do, what I ended up doing, I've removed Damian Harris, Gronk, and Keenan Allen. So now that gives me 17,000 to play with. This is just looking around. Obviously, I removed Gronk and I went with a cheaper tight end. Right, that was the first place I looked. Tight end. Where can I get a fantastic value for a cheaper price? So I went Dalton Schultz, 3,300. With the injury to Michael Gallup, sure, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb are going to eat, but the number one tight end is going to eat too. Let's not forget that Dalton Schultz is the tight end one in a pass-happy team. Yeah, he got 10 points, 6 for 45. All he needs is a touchdown, and that value is looking a lot better.
Curious, what did they price Blake Jarwin at this week?
Jarwin, he's a lot cheaper. Where is he?
I was going to say.
He's 31.
Okay. I was curious how they priced him.
He's not that much cheaper, but if you look at the stats, he went 3 for 20. So he got 5 points last week.
It looked like Schultz is the one for sure. If there was an injury to one of those guys, they would be really good for weekly fantasy for sure. If one of them would go down, but
now I got 13,000 to play with. I went with a very good PPR running back, Alvin Kamara. You know, he only put up about 1 million points last season. So I went with him. I went with the sure thing at running back this time, which leaves me 5,100 to play with. There's still fantastic value that low. You got Jacoby Myers, Jerry Jeudy, unfortunately, he's hurt. Christian Kirk, Nelson Aguilar, Russell Gage, Tyler Boyd, but I went with Jamar Chase, the rookie that will be seeing touches against the Chicago Bears defense that's looking a little iffy right now. You know, Jamar Chase didn't really drop much last week. 5 for 101 and a touchdown. He didn't drop much last week.
No. I think that's dead.
Yeah, he will be seeing the ball. For sure.
I did have just 2 pivot plays on your lineup, and it can be with this one or your original lineup. Yeah. So you have 100 left over, correct? Make sure I have my math right. Okay. So if you remove Mac Jones and Antonio Brown, you can make that Joe Burrow, who's 5,800, and Antonio Brown down to Juju Smith-Schuster at 5,700. Now, I think the Steelers will have – the Steelers receivers are tough, man, because you don't know. But I think a Joe Burrow is such a big upgrade from Mac Jones personally. The Bears secondary is not good. We've seen the Rams expose them. I think the Bears are good up 7 good. Their back is bad. You might lose a little bit to AB to Juju, but I think Burrow more than makes up for it as the quarterback position.
I personally don't love the matchup against the Bears this week. They played really well last week, but this time they're going on the road and their expected point totals in the low 20s. I think around 21 or 22. I don't mind Mac Jones there personally.
Okay. I think if the Bears can get beat, it can be in their secondary.
Which is where
but
they got.
It is a problem with the Bengals
O
O-line. Can they give them time to throw it? That's the only thing. But it also gives you the Burrow Chase stack, which is always nice to have the stack as well. Get the double points if you do get the touchdown.
I try to have a stack in every lineup if at all possible. Okay. One thing of concern, I've got a couple of Tampa Bay players in my lineup as well. The Falcons were so just not competitive last week, getting beat 32-6. Do you think there's a chance even early in the season the Bucs could pull their starters if they're having a similar game as last week?
The Buccaneers did that once last year. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, it was against. It was against. I think it might have been against the Lions.
Okay.
Yeah, they put up like 50 in the first half. And this was the game that I think Stafford got hurt in the first quarter.
It is a divisional game. Maybe Atlanta shows up a little bit better just for the fact it's a divisional game. So
Atlanta played them tough twice last year where they had a lead, I think, going into the half, and they just came out flat in the second half as they did all last season.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it, but anything can happen. I think early in the season they won't pull their starters, but like I said, I got a couple of the Bucs players in mind, and I'm kind of iffy just because of that. That's the only thing to think about, because otherwise their implied total is 32, and it's the highest one on the board. So should be a slam dunk as long as they play their starters at least 3 quarters.
I have one more team that I did really, really quick. Let me just do that real quick. Okay. So I went Brady as my quarterback. I have Brady as a top 5 quarterback this season only because I feel like he's going to throw like close to – he might break the passing touchdown record this season. That's how high I have him. At running back, I went 6,100 David Montgomery. We saw what he did last week. I'm still unsure about the Cincinnati Bengals defense. I think they got bailed out by a Dalvin Cook fumble, which I don't think he actually fumbled. I think his leg was down. I'm not sure if it was that game.
Yeah, it was that game. That was a questionable call for sure.
And I also went Damian Harris. I'm very high on him this week. I think he's going to play very well. I do think he gets that touchdown, which gets him close to like 16-ish points. For receivers, we're talking about the Falcons-Bucks game. I went Godwin at 6,600, and I went Antonio Brown. I think they both score a touchdown. They both get like seven catches and a touchdown each. Brady might throw for 500 this week. Like, I'm just not high on the Falcons defense whatsoever. How can we not go with CeeDee Lamb after we talked about Michael Gallup being hurt?
Right.
I feel like that's a gimme play. Of course, I still kept Dalton Schultz as my tight end at 3,300 for the same reason. I think he gets more touches with Gallup being hurt. And I went with my flex at 5,400, Devontae Smith. I think he's probably the best. No, yes, he's actually not the best rookie receiver, but he looked really good last week. And then
it's looking like a good rookie receiver class again after week 1 for sure.
Yeah, I think the only one is Bateman because he's hurt, and then
Tony maybe. There's some question marks there.
Terrible. And then I went with Denver against Jackson, against a rookie who threw 3 interceptions last week.
Now this is going to be an odd question after my last question in regards to pulling starters, the Falcons. So if we anticipate maybe contrary to that it's a higher scoring affair, how would you feel about if you could fit him in your lineup maybe as a comeback player, maybe somebody like Kyle Pitts?
I mean, at this point, since we didn't really see what they can do last week, I kind of stayed away from those players that struggled week 1 until they pick it up. Like Russell Gage, I was very high on Russell Gage. Until he produces, I'm gonna stay away from them.
Gage didn't even have a catch last week.
Yeah, and Kyle Pitts, like, sure, he saw the targets and he saw the playing time and the snap percentage, but he was just like non-existent fantasy wise.
Okay.
So until like the Falcons offense decides to show up, because they didn't show up against an Eagles defense that is maybe like middle of the road. Yeah. And if you're gonna struggle against them, I mean, sure, they can probably score against the Bucs secondary, which they did just well last year. But it's like I want to see it before I, even have any trust in you.
They also had Julio Jones too.
Exactly.
Losing him is a little bit. I mean, I know he's not the same Julio anymore, but still, that takes away coverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that was my backup lineup if you want like home run hitters everywhere outside of like Damian Harris.
But how many carries did Harris have last week? Like 23 or something?
Something like that. And he definitely had 100 yards. I think he might have seen like 2 or 3 receptions. He just didn't have that touchdown, and he fumbled.
It was interesting that Stevenson was in the game so early, but I know then he fumbled, and that was the end of that. But I was interested to see he was in pretty early in the game. I don't know.
They might have J.J. Taylor this week instead of Stevenson.
Okay.
I think they usually do that. Like, especially for a rookie, you fumble once, you're going to learn that you shouldn't fumble. Sure.
And James White's still hanging around too, getting his 4 or 5 catches.
And the thing is with Stevenson, he didn't fumble. His leg was down too.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually see the fumble. I just seen the stat sheet, so I didn't see that.
Yeah. White's always one of those fairly inexpensive flex players you can throw in last minute if you need somebody. So.
Yeah, if you need to go cheap, you're going to get 10 out of him probably.
Exactly. And just everybody listening, just keep in mind this is PPR format, so those receptions help out a lot. So.
All right. So for my quarterback, I went Kirk Cousins at 6,200. I feel like they're going to be playing catch up the whole game. And going to be throwing some bombs to Jefferson and Thielen and maybe this new receiver. I forget his name, the Osborne kid, who's kind of a waiver wire. He had a bunch of targets. Keep an eye on that guy. But I feel like they're just going to be behind all day and just be throwing. Derrick Henry couldn't get going against the Cardinals front. Maybe Dalvin Cook doesn't get going, and they just try to test the secondary early and often. For running back, we're going to go back to a guy that was struggled last week in Zeke. He's 6,200. It seems way too low for a guy his caliber. Now, last week, if you watched the game, Zeke was very much pass blocking a lot for Dallas. I think that was the game plan for him, knowing they're going to need him to do that. Him being a team player, I can see them rewarding him with a lot of carries and touches this week. Could be wrong, but I feel like Zeke at 6,200, I got to try him somewhere in a lineup to see if he can still get back to what he is. Another running back, I spin up for Nick Chubb at 7,800. Listen, the Browns aren't going to be Urban Meyer and not try to run against the Houston Texans for some reason or the rookie quarterback. James Robinson got 5 carries. Are you kidding me? Nick Chubb's going to feast this week. If you can afford to play him, I don't see how he doesn't get 100 yards and a score minimum. For the wide receivers, I did go to the Tampa game, but I went the one receiver who didn't play, Mike Evans. Now, this is another kind of Zeke of the guy that wasn't involved. He's 6,100. Mike Evans does this stuff all the time. He'll get you 5 and then 30. Or he might do 5 again this week, then do 30. He's a very inconsistent receiver. He's very boom or bust. But it's another one where, like, he's too good to not be involved. I think he only had 2 catches last week. I really think he only had 5 points.
He had 3.
Oh, yeah, 5 points, 3 for 24.
But
so,
I think after his last reception, he left off the field, and he looked like he was in pain.
Yeah, so that could be something to keep an eye on, too. In a game where they might not need him, maybe he's not used as much, but I do like him. I think he scores this week against Atlanta. For the next receiver, since we kind of spent up already, so we're going to go cheap, but I really like this guy, sneaky, 3,800 at KJ Hamler. With Judy being out, it's Tim Patrick, it's Hamler, but I feel like Hamler has a very good chance to catch a long touchdown against that Jags secondary. I like this kid a lot at Penn State, being a Big Ten guy, watching a lot of football. I've tried to acquire him in some dynasty leagues this offseason. I think he's going to get a big opportunity here. But I could be on the wrong side of this with Tim Patrick. One of them I think is going to have a good week. I don't think Sutton's 100% yet. Maybe he is. We're going to find out very soon. But somebody's going to blow up for Denver this weekend as a wide receiver for sure. And I like him at 3,800 to get as the cheapest one out of the 3. The next guy is the same guy I played last week at 5,900, Brandon Cooks. I mean, look at him. He gets 100 yards last week, and nobody ever wants this guy. And they're going to be playing catch-up from Cleveland all game. Cleveland secondary, Tyreek Hill was just running circles out there like it was recess last week. As soon as the Browns got up 9 with 10 minutes to go, Mahomes just threw it up, and there you go. And then the Browns just were the Browns of old. So Brandon Cooks at 5,900. He's going to have 10 targets, right? I don't know what his target was last week, but I know he had like 4 or 5 for 100 and 5 for 132. What's his target? Does that say 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's the number 1 there. He's the only receiver that's worth his crap right now. Nico Collins may be up and coming still. He's one to keep an eye on, but I'm always going to like Brandon Cooks until they up his price. It's too cheap for a guy that's going to be the most targeted guy, especially in a negative game script. I don't see them keeping it close with Cleveland. I think they're going to run wild. At tight end, I went to Brian's guy last week, a guy you just talked down, so I was kind of laughing over here with Kyle Pitts at 5,200. And you mentioned he did have 8 targets last week. And Dallas had good success throwing against Tampa last week. They had 10 targets to tight ends. 9 of them were catches between Schultz and Jarwin. This could be the Pitts breakout game. I may be too early. I'm never big on rookie tight ends. If he's not going to do it this week, then I will probably punt him the rest of the season in terms of rookie tight end, the daily or fantasy in general. I can see him getting another 8 to 10 targets this week. Tampa's going to try to take away Calvin Ridley. Maybe Russell Gage gets involved. But, again, we all know they're going to be losing early and often. I can see Kyle Pitts have another 8 to 10 targets this week and maybe come away with a few more of them. A couple plays, he seemed like he thought he was still in college, putting 1 foot down on the outside. Someone needs to remind him this is the NFL. You got to do a little bit better now. In the flex, a guy you mentioned also, CeeDee Lamb, 6,400 seems too cheap. The game has a 55 over under? It's the last time I've seen it. I don't know what it is right now, but I think that'll be a game where whoever has the ball last is going to win that game. And I think having every piece in that game is what you're going to want.
51.
No, Dallas, it was the one under it.
55.
55, yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
I was looking at Falcons Bucks.
CeeDee Lamb and Cooper, if you can fit Cooper, more money, obviously, but they're both smash plays every week, I think. And then defense, this was interesting because I was down to 2,400, so I went with the Philadelphia Eagles. They have 2 good guys in the middle of what the Niners like to do best and run the ball. Fletcher Cox and Jaron Hargrave are very good D tackles. And we do know Jimmy G does have some turnover issues. I can see that game being sneaky, and the Eagles might win this game. I very well believe that could happen. They have Slay in the secondary and Steven Nelson at corner 2, and X-Steeler I know is very good. I'm very interested to watch to see, was this Atlanta that bad? Is Philly better than we think? Maybe a little bit of both. I'm very interested to see if they can run the ball on them and who's going to run for the Niners. I wasn't even trying to touch that backfield. I know Elijah Mitchell was 5,000, but they say they're going to activate Sermon this week, and I hate Shanahan. I hate his running backs. I hate everything about him. So I feel like a lot of people are going to play Elijah Mitchell, and what if it's JaMychal Hasty? What if it's Sermon? You just don't know. Mitchell might be the guy. Maybe they like what he saw, but that was my lineup with 0 left over initially. I had a couple pivot plays. If you guys want to give out a couple first to see maybe you don't like, and then I'll give you my pivot plays.
You go ahead. I'm going to put, after my lineup, I'll throw out a couple pivot plays that we all haven't mentioned. But you go ahead.
Do you have a pivot, Mav, or do you want me to do mine first or my own?
I'm looking.
Well, I can let you look. I wrote one down.
Good.
So I took out Kirk Cousins. And so that was 62. Added Matt Stafford, so I'm over 200. He's 6,400. Then I went Zeke down to David Montgomery, 62 to 61, which I know you mentioned Montgomery too. I feel like none of us, we're all putting him in pivot plays. Like we still don't want to play David Montgomery. There's something about him. I don't know what it is. He looked good against the Rams, though. He really did.
I thought he looked awesome, to be honest, last week.
And then the last one, to make the last 100 go away, Mike Evans down 6,100 and put in Cooper Kupp. So then you get the Stafford Kupp combo. And honestly, after I did my pivot plays, I'm like, I kind of like this better. Stafford and Kupp seem to have a connection right now. I know it's only one game, but I think he is the one over Robert Woods now, and that hurts me to say because I'm a huge Bobby Trees fan. So it kind of hurts. But I do like that stack. Montgomery over Zeke maybe is a wash, so maybe that is the better way to go. But that's just another way to look at it and still be all the cash used.
And that's one thing for our viewers to remember. Tonight's Friday night. We're giving our best plans right now. Keep in mind, you can always continue to look at it up until game time on Sunday. There might be something out there. Maybe somebody that you're thinking about is questionable. He's declared out by 10:30 on Sunday. Don't forget you can always tweak your lineup. So.
CD Lamb might be kind of popular too in terms of cash. Like I feel like a lot of people play him. If you go 100 cheaper there, you can get a guy like Jarvis Landry who will get a lot of targets without OBJ in the lineup in a Houston bad secondary. Jarvis Landry could very well have 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown as well. So he could be somebody that doesn't get played as much as CeeDee Lamb that you can maybe gain on.
And the funny thing is, we have a lot of the same games we like.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned both Chubb and also Hamler, and don't forget for 5,800 you can actually get Kareem Hunt too. So if you wanted to go cheaper,
right,
that might be an option. And then on the opposite end, you can go slightly higher and get Tim Patrick's at 4,700. So just keep in mind, you may not always agree with all of our players, but there are other options within the same game that are going to be good high-scoring opportunities. So
Hunt could be interesting too, because if they get up big, they might not want to get Chubb hurt. You might see a lot of Hunt in the second half, because Chubb is their one. So if they're up 28-0 at halftime, I'd be like, all right, Chubb, you're only going to get 5 more carries, So that is a good point with Kareem Hunt for sure with the Browns.
That's what they always did at the end of last year. After Chubb came back from his injury, and I think like week 11, towards the end of the season, if they were ever ahead, they like to use Hunt. And in all fairness, they didn't use him that much when the game was competitive. So,
right.
Now, the thing is with Stafford, once he finds his receiver that he likes, he's going to go to him all season. He's always done that. Same thing with Megatron, obviously, because it's Megatron, Kenny Galladay, Golden Tate. Once he has his number one guy, he's going to stick with him most of the time. So I think that
does look like
Cooper Kupp. Yeah, he's never had like 2 great receivers or 2 guys that always goes off. Because every time Galladay got hurt, the guy that stepped up was Marvin Jones. There was never 2 guys at the same time.
I did see an interesting stat too, kind of scary about Robert Woods, is he played the same amount of snaps and plays as Brandon Ayuk did, and we all know Brandon Ayuk disappeared last week. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's a sign of thing to come. Maybe they like Van Jefferson a little more. We saw him have a splash play. He's coming up, and they still got Djax out there and Tyler Higbee. So I'm a little worried about Robert Woods. We'll see this week. I don't want to try to go crazy after 1 week, but you're right. It definitely seemed like Cooper Kupp was his first read when he could be.
And in a non-DFS redraft league, as a cheap, as a possible deep waiver wire move, like you said, Van Jefferson might be somebody to pick up in regards to the big plays. So.
He is very cheap.
Yeah.
So what I changed with your lineup real quick, I was just tinkering with it.
Okay.
I went Joe Mixon instead of Chubb.
Okay. You like him against that Bears defense?
I'm still not very high on the Bears defense right now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see, because it was the Rams, because that Bengals line scares me. I am a Mixon dynasty owner, so I kind of in a point where I have to play him this week. So I'm hoping, but my expectations aren't very high. I'm hoping if he gets a score in like 70 yards, I'll be happy.
I think they're gonna have to play a little soft on the Bengals defense, unless they want to bring the pressure. But the way you beat the pressure is you run the ball. But they're gonna have to be worried about these 3 receivers. So they might have to play a little soft and take away the deep route, which will open up the run game. I think Mixon could have another big game.
I could see that game sneakily being high. I think the total's a little low because, like I said before, I don't trust the Bears secondary, and I don't really trust the Bengals defense either. But again, Andy Dalton, can we get Justin Fields in, please? Can we at least see what he's got? Come on, stop playing around. We all know what the truth is.
I took out Hamler and Pitts, and I put in Jamar Chase and Gronk.
Okay. So you're very high on Gronk this week. See, I'm the opposite with Gronk and Mike Evans. I think I could see them flip-flopping, but you just don't know with Tampa because, like we all said, they might just kill Atlanta and then somebody doesn't get involved.
Yeah, well, the thing is with the Bucks, Gronk saw the targets. He even saw the targets last year towards the end of the season when he became healthier and he was more in football shape. He's in 20 times better shape than he was last season already. You already saw that in week 1.
Right. And OJ Howard did not get on the field for like a couple plays, and Cameron Brate, I don't think he did much either. I was shocked, honestly. I thought OJ Howard, okay, he's finally healthy. I think that dude's got talent. I don't know what. He just might be in the doghouse. Bruce Arians seems to bench his guys very quickly. We saw that with Rojo. One fumble, and he was gone. So, I don't know. OJ Howard would be interesting.
Same thing with Lenny. He has to buy in, and I don't think OJ Howard has bought in, and he kind of just lost his spot after his injury to Gronk.
Yeah, we'll see. OJ Howard will probably be on a new team next year. And then maybe then, we'll see. Same with David Njoku in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Two guys that have talent that just seem to need a new change of scenery.
Yeah, so that like the Brady Gronk connection, still very good. He's gonna see the targets, especially in the red zone. You can't cover him in the red zone.
You sure you're not being Homer to Patriots?
No, I
know. I'm just giving you shit.
At the respective price tags, I'm on Gronk this week too.
Yeah, 4,700, like that's nothing. And
he gave being the number one tight end last week, it feels like DraftKings was like
he gave you so much more than Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts, being a rookie who hasn't showed much, is 5,200. I feel like his price tag went up, and he got the targets too, but he didn't get the yards. Obviously, they didn't score the touchdown. And once you get to the red zone, you have to be able to use these tight ends. And Matt Ryan, for whatever reason, has never been good in the red zone.
One guy I was going to mention if he was out, I was going to say Dallas Goedert with Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz got removed from the injury report. So when those two play, I mean, I know Goddard was the main one last week, but he seemed really cheap too. If Ertz would have been out, I think it would have been a smash play. But
I think Ertz only had 2 targets last week.
Yeah, so maybe it is still, but I feel like, Ertz completely out. Maybe it's just but Goddard is still pretty cheap for being what he could be.
46, yeah.
The game, they're going to be close, should be a close game throughout.
I don't Ertz, to be honest. The 49ers defense last year was amongst maybe they're actually very top in regards to the least amount of fantasy points given up with like under 8. So I don't want either one of them.
Okay. I know Hawkinson's better than those two. He had a good game last week, but I know, again, the Lions don't have a receiver, so they kind of have to throw to Hawkinson.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that as well. Hawkinson, I think, off the top of my head, is 8 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown or something like that. I was writing an article today. I don't anticipate the Eagles doing what Hawkinson did personally.
I think Hawkinson's going to be a monster all year with no receivers in Detroit. He's going to be fun to watch.
He's going to have
he's on my fantasy team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
and the 2 Patriots tight ends, like a lot of them, I thought they were going to be a little better, but I forgot that they're just coming back from an injury. Both of them, like not a lot of them saw any kind of playing time in the preseason and pretty much the entire offseason.
I saw a few plays to Jonnu Smith here and there, watching on a red zone and stuff. I seen a couple screen passes go his way. I didn't see anything Hunter Henry. How many targets did Hunter Henry even have?
Yeah, 3 for 31.
3 for 31.
I think they're both going to get eased into the offense because they didn't really play in the offseason and in preseason.
Yeah, I feel like I would just play Jonnu if I had to pick a Patriot tight end. I don't trust Hunter Henry run. He might be the red zone guy maybe, but I think I like Jonnu better just overall as an athlete and a player.
And they gave Jonnu a carry too for 6 yards. I think they gave him
like the Titans. That stuff cracks me up when you see Jonnu getting those carries. He's an athlete, man.
Oh, Jonnu fumbled as well. I didn't even know that.
Jonnu's going to lead in definitely targets and receptions amongst those two. Mm-hmm. Only way Henry can even come close is, like you said, maybe 6 to 8 touchdowns. So.
Okay, Brian, do you want to give yours?
Yeah. My lineup's not too dissimilar than your all, so it's kind of funny. We all ended on the same games and same preferences, but at quarterback, I started with Brady, 6,900. The Buccaneers, like I said earlier, they have the highest implied total on the board, which is 32. So I'm with him. My 2 running backs, I've got Chris Carson at 6,100. I'm hosting the Titans. And next, I'm kind of a Steelers fan. They played great in the second half. First half was really ugly. But I took Najee Harris at 6,300. They're hosting the Raiders. And those 2 games, the implied total for the Seahawks is 30. For the Steelers, it's 26.5. One thing I should mention before we go any further is that every single defensive points against was in the top 10. Except for Cole Kmet, he was like 16th. But that's one thing. Sometimes for value play in regards to pricing, you don't always get the perfect implied total and also defensive points against, but you do the absolute best. So this week I was actually able to fit a lot of that in terms of high implied totals and defensive points against. A lot of it fit into my lineup. So those things went well. So those are my quarterbacks and running backs. We've heard this name before. One of my wide receivers is Keenan Allen. He's sitting at 7,000 against the Cowboys, and their implied total is at 29. And the Cowboys actually give up the 5th most points to wide receivers last year. So that seemed like a good play.
Let me mention something real quick. I'm a Keenan Allen fan. You guys put him in. None of us put Mike Williams in there, who's cheaper, had about the same amount of targets. But I know there was an article that Christian put out about Diggs being on him, and maybe that's why Mike Evans didn't have a good game. But that is something to keep an eye on. Like, he is cheaper. Can he have the same amount of game? We all know Mike Williams is talented, can't stay healthy. Maybe he's in a contract year. He's going to figure it out. But that's a nice – that game's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, you want all the pieces in that game. So that's one to look at for him for sure.
I love Mike Williams, to be honest. He was my first waiver wire move in a it's actually a homeboy league that we've been doing for 17 years. And for some reason during the live draft, I had him picking him like in the 7th or 8th round, and our draft was 15 rounds long. And for some reason, I skipped over him. Then we got an opportunity to look the next day. I was like, oh my God, how did I leave him off? He was supposed to be picked like 8 rounds ago. And then he just totally went off last week. So I like him. The price tag 6,100. I don't know. It seemed just a smidge high, but at the same time, it's not bad value at all. I was hoping he'd be falling about 57 or 58 personally, but I still like him. I think he's a great play. So like you said, that Cowboys-Chargers game, I anticipate a very high-scoring, fun affair. So on the opposite side of things, initially I had Deontay Johnson. Like I said, I'm a Steelers fan. Maybe it seemed like too many Steelers in my lineup. So I switched out Deontay to CeeDee Lamb. They were at the exact same price at 6,400. And as we all discussed, the injury to Gallup is going to open up some targets to somebody. And I don't know. Can he get more than the 15 he had last week? I'm not sure. But the one thing I can pretty much tell you,
it's possible.
he actually, if memory serves me, he had 7 catches on those 15 targets. And last year, he actually caught 66.7% of his passes. And last game, it was 46%. So he's not going to keep that up all year. So just imagine if he'd had 2 or 3 more receptions. He had 104 yards and a touchdown. But just imagine if he'd had 2 or 3 more receptions. He could have easily gotten up to maybe 140, 150 in terms of yardage. And you never can tell. Touchdowns are hard to come by. He could have even got the second touchdown. He would have had an even bigger game against.
He had a few drops.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He had a couple of drops too, but he seemed to like the body catch during the game a couple of times. But you're right. He's going to get 15 to 20 targets in this game. He's an auto play.
It just seemed like a slam dunk. I love Deontay. It just seems that, I don't know, for this game, CD seems to be the better player at the exact same price. So I had to go that way. So when I went with, like I said earlier, one thing I really like to do is do stacks. And a lot of times, if there's a decent return comeback player on the opposing team, I like to do that too. So with my quarterback being Brady, I went with Godwin sitting at 6,600. We've all talked about the Bucs in this. Obviously, I could have gone with Brown, Evans, even Gronk at tight end. But for me, I wanted Godwin. He's just really that good. And the Falcons defense last year gave it the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I think you've almost got to grab a piece of that, regardless of who you like best. And at the price tag you like them at, grab something.
All 3 of us played a different receiver for Tampa.
if you could afford all 3 of them, no, that's a little bit too much. But seriously.
Yeah.
I played both Godwin and Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I'm alone on the Mike Evans train then. Okay.
It's okay to sometimes in these larger tournaments, you want to be contrarian. So being alone is not a bad thing. So that was, let's see. So I've got one more receiver left. Kind of at this point in time, I've already listed my higher price players. I felt like a lot of these guys were slam dunks. Like I said, the implied totals, defensive points against, they all lined up like karma, I guess. We'll see come Sunday. But so I need 2 lower price players to help me out here. So my last wide receiver was Rondale Moore sitting at 4,000. He had 4 catches for 68 yards last week. The Vikings were 6th giving up fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. There are other less expensive receivers, but I really like what I saw out of Rondell Moore. And the one thing you can guarantee, I don't know, both Kirk and Moore, I don't know, AJ Green's listed as a starter. I don't think that's going to last very long, or maybe in name only, because he had 2 catches last week. So I don't anticipate much more from him. It's time to try the newer guy.
Eyeball test alone, I've seen a lot of the game. AJ Green he's lost his step. You can tell it's fallen off. It's a shame. I feel like the Bengals kind of wasted his career with what he could have been. But you can definitely tell he's just not the same receiver. He's good for them to be the number 3 or 4, but man, he's definitely stalling back.
He just plays like he's lost like all motivation to keep going.
Yeah. It's like they should have just kept Fitzgerald.
He reminds me a lot of Larry Fitzgerald in terms of being the senior mentor to the younger guys.
Yeah.
On-field performance, it's not going to happen, I don't think. My tight end was Cole Kmet. I watched the Bears-Rams game last week, and I was in Kansas visiting my wife's uncle, and he's like, you know what? He actually knows football. It was really enjoyable to see that. But he was like, you know what? Cole Kmet's pretty darn good. I was like, yeah. He doesn't have much of a quarterback right now, but he still had 5 catches for 42 yards, and he's going to be really involved in this offense because I like Darnell Mooney a lot. And obviously Allen Robinson is there, but you always kind of need a third piece. And I'm just waiting, and I think we all are, for Justin Fields to come in because, sorry, Andy, it's time to go to the bench.
Didn't Kmet have 8 or 9 targets last week too? He definitely was on the field a lot more than Jimmy Graham for sure. He's definitely taken over.
He had 7.
He
7, okay.
5 catches and 7 targets for 42 yards. But I don't know, his athleticism to me just was very fluid. I was like, this guy's going to be good.
Just a snap percentage between him and Jimmy Graham. I think it was like 60-40, 80-20, or something like that. Like where it was just like, don't even bother playing Jimmy Graham.
They're moving to the young gun for sure.
I remember Graham had at least 1 catch. I don't know if he had more than that, but
that one near the 5-yard line where he like bodied that guy. It's like, okay, there's the old Jimmy Graham every once in a while, but yeah, it's the Cole Kmet time for sure in Chicago.
He's still a monster, Graham is, but he just doesn't have that much left in the tank. But you have to pay respect to what he did in the past.
The years of him going first round in redraft leagues when he was on the Saints are well gone.
Yeah, he was a stud, though. It's unfortunate.
He was.
That's the worst thing. All of our favorite players get older just like we do. So it's tough to watch. And then I have to have a defense. And like I said, I'm a Steelers somewhat homer. But after finding out the news today that Josh Jacobs is going to be out, I'm still even more going to the Steelers defense, and they're sitting right there at 3,000. So I don't know. It seems even more like a slam dunk to me because they played very good last week against a much better team.
Yeah, they were very good, and I love that the Raiders are on a short week and they play an extra quarter basically. So Pittsburgh has a big advantage there, I think, and the first home game, first fans there in over a year, place is going to be electric. So,
it just seems to be a slam dunk pick, and to be honest, in terms of price, 3,000 is well below several teams. I'm sure they're in the top 10 in regards to pricing, I would think, but
seemed a little cheap for after what they did to Josh Allen for sure. If they do it again this week, I think it's going to skyrocket.
But I think a lot of their points came from special teams with the block for the
That's
touchdown.
true. That's true. But Josh Allen did not get going in that game. That looked like 2 years ago, Josh Allen, compared to last year. It's like he regressed. So let's hope that's not a thing for me as being a Stephon Diggs owner. We'll see. It's only one game.
I won't mind if he regresses.
Hey, we helped you out. Just the Patriots just
we
at least we helped you out.
We ended up fumbling twice.
I only had 2 pivots for you, Brian. So take out Brady for Justin Herbert, 6,900 to 6,700. And then is it Godwin? Is Godwin the 6,600 guy?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And then put Coop in for that one. He's 6,800. Amari Cooper, yeah.
Okay.
I could see both of those things happening.
Then you have the Herbert Keenan Allen stack as well, and the stacks are always fun. So that was just a quick 2. Not a lot. I really like the lineup. That was the only 2 I've seen, which you could go either way with. But
the other thing, bringing up the Amari Cooper in the game. So you've got the stack there, the Herbert Allen stack, but you also got the return player. that I had in CD Lamb, you can put Amari Cooper in there. So if that's being said, though, the only thing I don't like, sounds like I would be keeping Lamb in the lineup with Amari. I'm not sure two Cowboys in the lineup at the same time, just because I don't know.
If you did that, you could switch back from CD Lamb to Deontay Johnson too, same price. If you wanted to just keep switching around, but I don't think you're gonna have any problems not having a lot of pieces in the Dallas Chargers game.
No, you can. I think that's one of those games this week you can't nearly get enough of.
Now, for me, I am the complete opposite. We can put Brady back in there just because he's Tom Brady. He's going to throw like 5 touchdowns this week. I left Godwin in there because that's who I would keep. I'm removing Keenan Allen, and I feel like we're disrespecting Amari Cooper, the fact that we haven't even mentioned him and like the 90 points he put up last week.
Yeah,
so now we got 200. What I also ended up doing, because Najee Harris only gave you 6 points last week, I don't know about playing him just yet. I know rookie running backs, have been a thing lately.
This is going to be a good week for them. The Raiders have a good D-line. That Max Crosby guy was playing out of his mind Monday night.
I know they're lucking out with, I think Yannick Ngakoue has a serious injury, which is unfortunate because they look like a top 5 pass rushing duo last week. They were getting after Lamar Jackson.
For sure.
Hey, Mav, can you do me a favor? Can you pull out the running back prices? There's a handful between 59 and 61, including Montgomery, Henderson. There's like a couple other guys that I'm forgetting.
Montgomery is who I would play instead of Najee at 61.
There's 2 or 3 guys that are actually pretty decent right there that would be hard.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon at 59.
So we put Montgomery in all 3 of our lineups as pivot plays, but none of us played him. That's funny.
Which gives you 400 more. And honestly, I would have played the Cardinals defense over the Steelers. Even though it's just $100 difference, I would play the Chandler Jones might give you another 5 sacks.
That was ridiculous.
He might give you another 5 sacks, which will give you 500. I don't know what you're going to do with the 500.
I am interested to see if the Cardinals D is legit. That's something I would definitely want to see because, man, they either Titans are bad or a little bit of both there. Man, the Titans looked lost on
their
Sunday.
O-line was weak. It has gotten weaker. They've lost a lot of pieces, which nobody was really talking about. Everybody just sees Julio, Ryan, Tannehill, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, but nobody spoke about the pieces that they lost in the O-line. Nobody talked about the pieces they lost in the defense. So now when you can't run the ball, that doesn't open up the passing game, and now it just looks like what you had last week. Especially when you have Chandler Jones screaming at you the entire
right.
game.
There is one last mention I'd like to make in regards to pivot plays. With the Judy injury, Bridgewater looked pretty good. Like if you really needed a low price quarterback, he's sitting at 5,400, and then at tight end, because of the injury, Noah Fant going to open up some more targets too, and he's sitting at 42. So those are a couple other players that I would consider if you need cheaper alternatives in lineups.
So Bridgewater and Mac Jones are the same price. Would you rather play Bridgewater versus the Jags defense?
Personally, I would, but I also had Mac Jones written down as a potential pivot. So I don't think it could really go bad with either one of them. But I would pick Bridgewater, but it would be a coin toss to me.
All right. Do we want to get into spread plays since we're hitting about 49 minutes here?
Yeah, that would be perfect. Okay. If we want to, we won't go into a ton of discussion. We've each got 5. We've each got 5 spread plays, I think, picked up. We'll each talk about them, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mav. We'll stay in the same order.
All right. After the upset, I consider it an upset. Give me the Bengals plus 2.5 in Chicago. Okay. I don't think Dalton wins a game until Justin Fields is out there.
Just hope Fields don't come in at halftime.
Right. Another road favorite. Give me the Rams at minus 3.5. I think with what we saw last week, that's just a little taste. That was way better than what I was expecting. We were going to see all season from Stafford, and it looked like it worked out immediately. Mm-hmm. I was not very high on Stafford, and he came out slinging.
Right.
Give me the Patriots minus 6. Again, another road favorite.
Now, I do want to mention last week, a buddy mentioned mine to give you a little crap guy that's watching our podcast. He said, I thought the Patriots in Tampa Bay were going to be undefeated when they play.
That's if we fumbled. I mean, obviously there were a lot of other plays that went into it as to why we lost. Obviously we couldn't cover a single slant with Jalen Waddle.
If you guys lose this game, then you got to play the Saints. What if it's 3-0 over Tampa versus 0-3 New England? And then you guys beat them. That's what will happen.
I don't know, man. I don't even want to think about that. Like we're so good against rookie quarterbacks, and I think the trend continues this season. Yeah. So I think the defense plays just as well. Hopefully the corners we're able to cover Corey Davis, and I think Jameson Crowder's coming back. We should be fine against the run, and hopefully we make Zach Wilson look like every other rookie quarterback.
I'm on that game too, man. I got the Pats -6. So.
Yeah, give me now a home favorite. Finally, give me Arizona -4.
Okay.
Now, give me the road underdog. 12.5, I think is too much. Give me Atlanta.
It's a divisional game, too. I like that.
Yes. Atlanta played them tough.
See if maybe Sunday gets up to 14, then absolutely it'll be a lot better, obviously. But yeah, I don't see it going down. Was that 5? That was 5. I think you had 5.
Tampa, Arizona, and 3 road teams, yeah.
Okay. For me, I'm starting with a total. The Panthers Saints under 44. Both defenses played good last week, and that total actually, it's at the very top, Mav. That total actually opened up 47.5 and has already gone down 3 points. I think both defenses are sneaky good. Carolina's got a guy in Brian Burns that is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough. He's good. He had another sack last week. He had 9 last year. The dude's stud. He plays for Carolina, so no one ever talks about him. But I can see Jameis. He only really threw for 150 yards last week. The TDs were kind of skewed. I can see that being a lower scoring game, so people being disappointed in the McCaffreys and Kamaras possibly.
Well, what he talked about how inflated Jameis' stats are. He went 14 of 20, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, 5 touchdowns!" Jameis.
Yeah, 100, not even 150 yards. That was wild. Next one, I don't like taking big favorites, but I took Seattle -6. Like I mentioned, the Titans before. Titans look lost. Russell Wilson's good at home. Give me the Seahawks to kind of just run away with the Titans.
12th, man, early in the year.
Yeah, I like Seattle a lot there to just kind of blow them away. And if you take Derrick Henry out of the game and force him to throw, I can see him winning by 14 to 17 there. For 3, upset here. Now, this is hard as a Steeler fan, but at Sunday night, I'm going to take the Ravens at home against the Chiefs. The Chiefs' run D got shredded by Cleveland, and we know what Baltimore does well is run the ball. And it's prime time early in the season. Maybe we see a little revenge game factor from Sammy Watkins. He's healthy right now, and it's not going to last long, but, I think a lot of the public bets will come in on Kansas City, and I think Baltimore at home is going to be really mad they lost last week, and I could see that being a big upset, and the Ravens do not want to fall to 0-2 in the AFC.
Well, the reason why the Chiefs are 3.5 is actually a lot lower than I thought is because Lamar has yet to beat Mahomes.
Right. Yeah, that's the only scare. I hate going against Mahomes, but I feel like this is a good spot to do it. Chiefs really should have lost last week, and the Ravens really should have won. Yeah. So that's an interesting game. That's going to be a fun game to watch, too. We obviously couldn't talk about it being the Sunday night game of our players, but I think, obviously, we're all ready to watch that game.
I was surprised how bad the Chiefs' defense was against the run. They just shredded.
No, my number 4 game, I'm going against both of you. I'm taking the Jets in 6. Now, listen, I know it's Belichick versus a rookie quarterback. The Patriots also have a rookie quarterback. I think the Patriots win this game and don't cover. That's my thing. I think it's close. Yeah, I know that as a fan. I think 6 is too many for a rookie quarterback to be favored on the road in the division. That's all. It's rookie versus rookie. Zach Wilson didn't look good. Under might be the safer play here, honestly, with 42.5. It's probably going to be low scoring as well, but I think 6 is a lot. New England wins by 3 or 4, 24-20 at most, maybe 17-20. I do like the Jets getting 6, definitely 7 if it gets to that number. And then last week I gave an upset of the week, and we got it right. We took the Raiders, and I don't know if I really should have won that game, but this week I'm sticking with the AC East, and I'm going to pick Buffalo to go 0-2 and pick the Dolphins. The team that won, getting 3 at home. I'm a little worried about Josh Allen, like I mentioned before. The Dolphins' D is good, and I want to see Jalen Waddle just keep getting better, and the Fins' defense it's good. So I got both AFC East dogs covering, but the Dolphins win this game outright. I think the Bills are 0-2 and go into panic mode a little bit, and 2 is 2-0. So that's it for me, Brian.
Luke, I'm going to be honest with you. My picks are more mirrored in terms of Mav and I being similar. You and I are kind of complete opposites, but that's okay. Some games I didn't pick that you picked, but
I got 3 out of 5 last week.
Me too.
So, I get 2 out of 5.
As long as Mav did well, we had a good week. So I'm not sure how we did off paper, but so my 5 real quick. I've got you just talked about the Dolphins. I'm on the opposite side. I'm taking the Bills.
Okay.
Josh Allen's actually 11-4 against the spread on the road for his entire career. So I went that direction.
That's an interesting stat.
And he blew them out last year, week 17.
Steelers, yeah. I took them -6 versus the Raiders. Big Ben is actually 32-23 with when the spread is more than 6 points at home in his career.
As long as it's not at the Raiders, we know our history at the Raiders. We lost to Terrell Pryor, okay? Like, we don't beat the Raiders out in Oakland.
Oh,
I'm very glad.
Didn't he have that long touchdown run?
The first play of the game, yes.
Yeah, I remember.
I think we're going to lose right after that.
Too many black holes out there for us. We're not going out there for sure. I got the Cards. Cards -3.5 versus the Vikings. Minnesota's actually got the absolute worst against the spread record since game 1 of the 2020 season at 6-11. Nobody else is even compared to them. So
they have a lot of defensive injuries.
Yeah, exactly. I don't love the Vikings. I thought they were going to be good at the beginning of the year, but not now. I got the Rams -3.5. The Colts. Colts are actually 0-4 under Frank Reich as the home dog. And then last but not least, I went with the Chiefs -3.5. Mahomes is 16-8 against the spread in his career at Kansas City. So just kind of like winning 2 out of every 3. So I thought I'd go that route. So those are my picks. So
Christian Darrisaw, he's the rookie O-line, right? Offensive lineman
for the Chargers.
No, for the Vikings. Isn't that who they took? Christian Darrisaw.
I think I could be wrong.
I think he's a rookie offensive lineman. He's not playing.
Okay.
So I know he was like their first round pick. I think that's
the Chargers have Slater.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's Darrisaw.
So yeah, he's not playing on Sunday.
So guys, if any more discussion in regards to picks, are all ready to?
What would you guys take if you had to take the Cleveland spread being 13 against the Texans?
I left that alone. I wouldn't touch it.
I don't see the Browns. Has the Browns ever won that big before?
Right.
Well, no.
It feels like you should just take the Texans, but I know like they're going to run against that.
They run the ball, and I don't know if they can defend the pass that well.
Yeah, they got a lot of young DBs that have talent, but kind of still developing. Like, hey, that's why we got Brandon Cooks in the lineup. He might have 100 yards again.
I think the Browns win by like 10, and they don't cover.
It's weird to see the Browns -2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I try to leave all those games 12, 13-point spreads kind of away because in the NFL, anything can happen. But that's just my personal viewpoint. Well, guys, if y'all don't mind, give it Twitter handles, and we'll thank the audience.
It's not a prop bet. Chandler Jones, 3 sacks. Twitter handles. Let me go back to that. Let me boom. Friend. Am I blind? There we go.
There.
Boom. Twitter handles, Protagonist TV _. Any questions about anything? I'm a Patriots fan, so I try not to be as biased as possible. I will tell you why we lost or if we suck. Last week was just unlucky and our secondary not being that great because we do need Stephon Gilmore and we do need him. So, but if you have any jet receivers, sit them this week.
Even Corey Davis?
Yes, I'm not playing Corey Davis.
Okay. My name is @LucasSpot on my Twitter. Pittsburgh Steeler questions, Pittsburgh Steeler fans, come follow. Also getting ready for the Columbus Blue Jackets season in hockey. But any Steelers or fantasy questions, you can hit me up anytime.
And personally, I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. It's our second week. Hopefully, we'll continue to get smoother and provide good content for you. In regards to me, you can always reach me at Vandergrad92 on Twitter. Like I said, I'm with 4 other websites. I've got another pod, writing 5 or 6 articles a week, just keeping busy. If you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Between the 3 of us, I'm sure we've got pretty decent knowledge, and what we don't, we'll bounce off of each other. But once again, thanks for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll be back again next Friday at 8 o'clock. I hope you'll tune in again. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.